it's approaching the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good? So after work, I was able to test out another category setup. For this one, we will be running through with the Movie Boss team setup. As you can see, this is pretty much a lineup right here. A lot of these units are either rainbowed or have at least 2 dupes, so it's a very solid team for me, and personally, it's probably still, Movie Boss is still probably my favorite category out of any category in Dokkan Battle. I just love running this team setup. So we'll go through this and kind of highlight each of the units included, and we'll go from there. So of course, you do have to run with the Super Saiyan Broly leaders because of the highest boost potential with the Movie Boss's category Key +3. Attack increase of 170% and HP and defense increase of 150%. In addition to that, Broly's great because not only does he greatly raise attack for 1 turn and causes, doesn't really matter in this case because there's only 1 enemy, but it's actually great because you don't have to worry about whether you're going to be able to get a super attack or not. I mean, he gives himself +6 key on top of the attack increase of 130% and defense increase of 100%. So it all works out well. But by the way, with the last rotation from the very get-go, I wasn't paying attention and realized LR Metacooler didn't have enough key. But stuff like that happens when after having a long day, pretty much. So back to the Broly unit, definitely a very good one. Very balanced between attack and defense. And then after the transformation, you also get Key +8, attack increase of 188%, defense increase of 120%, and then launches an additional attack that has a high chance to become a super attack. So depending on the potential levels, you can do up to 3 super attacks if you're lucky. So again, this definitely helps out. On top of that, Broly is able to massively lower defense as part of the super attack upon the transformation. So that is very, very beneficial to have in this type of event. The next one I want to talk about is the Tech Golden Frieza unit. As you all know, has the EZA now, and this unit also has the ability to massively lower defense. So again, like I said, a lot of these units are able to lower defense in some degree or another, and that is going to make things a lot easier. So on top of that, of course, the Golden Frieza is a hell of a tank. Attack increase of 80%, and then damage received is -80% when HP is 50% or above. Plus an additional attack increase of 50% and damage received by -50% when HP is 49% or below. So, as you all know, in the past before the EZA, this guy was a little bit of a liability in very tough events because once you get HP less than 50%, you no longer have the tanking ability. Well, with the EZA, even though it's not quite the 80% level, you still get a 50% tanking ability, so it definitely does help out. The biggest thing about that, on top of the ability to tank, the massively lowering defense is very helpful. So again, a lot of these units have that ability, and it makes a hell of a difference, let me tell you. Okay, so moving on to the physical type Final Form Cooler unit. Again, this one also has the ability to greatly lower defense as part of the super attack. And this guy can also, get a couple of super attacks. He has a built-in ability to launch an additional attack, with that being a high chance or a chance to become a super attack. So along with that, you do get an attack and defense increase of 100%. So a lot of these units are overall balanced in terms of both offense and defense. That's what's great about it. The next one I want to talk about is the EZA Intelligence Janemba unit. Again, this unit also has the ability to greatly lower defense from the super attack. Not only that, but this guy is absolutely phenomenal with the EZA. I mean, attack and defense increase of 70%. Guard activated against all attacks, medium chance to evade enemies' attacks. That includes supers as well for 1 turn, and then attack increase of 40% for 4 turns when guard is activated. So this guy is an absolute beast, and I still stand by it. Like, this guy probably is one of the best EZAs out of the bunch so far. So again, this guy can tank attacks, and offensively, this guy's very good as well. On top of that, again, this guy has the ability to greatly lower defense as well. All right, moving on to the LR Metacooler army. This unit is pretty solid. I mean, it's very good for a free-to-play unit. And Colossal Damage greatly lowers defense. That's 12 key with the 18 key. Mega Colossal Damage to enemy, and also raises Extreme-type allies' attack by 30% for 1 turn. On top of that, it's a little bit of liability sometimes in this case, but the higher the HP levels, you get a chance to boost the attack and defense up to 90%. The biggest benefit about this unit is the ability to launch up to 2 additional attacks, and each of those has a chance to become a super attack as well. So if you have the potential levels, with some more additionals, you could basically attack a bunch of times. Now, it's not always going to become a super attack, so you do have to, don't rely on it too much is probably the best advice. All right, and lastly, the agility metacooler unit. This guy is pretty good with this type of event where the more times you get attacked, basically the higher the attack will go up. So like 10% per attack received up to a max of 70%. On top of that, super attack also lowers attack and defense. So not only is it a defensive decrease to the enemy, you can also lower the attack as well. In some cases, it can be helpful. So lastly, I guess with that is this unit can obviously transform once HP is 50% or below. So it's a good occasion to conserve some HP levels. This unit also has the ability to recover 7% HP at the end of the turn in which receive the attack. So overall, this team is, again, one of my favorites to run in Dokkan Battle. I really love this category, and I love this team setup. Every single unit on here is solid, in my opinion, and I rate them very highly. I guess the biggest thing, too, is about this event, I try to not use any items up until you get to the Ultra Instinct Goku stage, like the very first one against the Strength type. That way you have a little buffer zone, I guess, so to speak, in terms of how you want to go about using items. Of course, like initially in the first couple of battles, you are facing either an agility or tech type for the most part. So you've got a couple of units that have type advantage, like Janemba and Metacooler for units against like the Super Saiyan Goku that you're seeing right now. And then for the agility units or agility enemies, you've got at least the Golden Frieza. The rest of the guys can tank pretty well too. Like that's the thing about this team is they're pretty good defensively. Each of them has their own little increase toward defense. So it's a percentage base for each unit, so it does help out a lot. The other thing too is I pretty much decided to leave out Turles. Even though that unit is very good, he's pretty much a liability with this event. He'll take way too much in damage, so it's simply not worth including. So that's pretty much, in case you're wondering, that's why you don't see that unit on the team right now. So again, any of the attacks where a lot of attacks are coming, I should say, Janemba is obviously going to be the guy to go there, because this guy just, he's just that good, you know what I mean? Like he's very good. So of course Broly's also pretty good, both offensively and defensively. Has a pretty high percentage boost overall. So again, the biggest thing about that unit is multiple super attacks, the chance of it anyway. So the only thing is, unless the criticals activate, your damage output is probably going to be a little bit on the light side, I guess, against, like both versions of Ultra Instinct Goku. Like up until Super Saiyan Blue Goku, you're not really going to run into too much issues with this team because of just how massively good defensively they are, and they can produce a pretty good amount of attack output. So I would, I would definitely say you're not going to struggle too much up until the point where you get to the Strength Ultra Instinct Goku. That's when things get a little bit difficult, because not only does Ultra Instinct Goku dodge a lot, there are a lot of physical type units on the team right now. You've got both versions of Broly as well as the cooler units. So you do have to be a little bit careful with that, and it'll be coming up here shortly, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But in relation to that, I did bring in like the Ghost Usher item instead of the Icarus item, because even though 30% reduction of damage for 2 turns is great, you can still take a ton of damage if you got a couple of physical type units on the rotation against the Strength Ultra Instinct Goku. So just to annihilate and eliminate as much risk as possible, I think the Ghost Usher is probably better for this category team setup, and that's what I would recommend in terms of items. The other ones are pretty much the same as the ones I used before. Whis for the 40% reduction to damage taken for 2 turns, and then The Snake Princess, which is a 55% HP recovery, and then 30% reduction of damage taken for 1 turn. And finally, Android 8, which is a 70% HP recovery and defense increase of 50%. So a lot of defense boosting items, and you're absolutely going to need them because these guys can attack for a pretty good amount. And one slip up can definitely cost you. So you do have to be careful. And that's why I say, you want to save your items up until you get past the Super Saiyan Blue Goku event or stage. Because the more items you have toward the later parts, the easier things are going to be. And you're actually going to have 1 or 2 items in reserve where you can kind of overuse it in a way where if you want to be overcautious about it, you have the ability to do that. So that's pretty much what I would say about that. Now, I did set things up to where immediately against the Ultra Instinct Goku, I would have the transformation set in place. So 2 turns at least, you're not going to take any damage. And try and apply as much damage as possible to lower that HP of Ultra Instinct Goku. He looks like he's got 2, 4, 6, 8 HP bars. So, you got to slowly chip away when he can. Each attack definitely does matter, especially, in a situation where you're not receiving any damage from the enemy. So, it's easier said than done because a lot of times it's going to be a little bit difficult to collect enough ki to get super attacks with every single slot, basically. So as long as you get 1, I think that's really what it comes down to. So that's pretty much what I would say about that. Oh, the other thing worth mentioning too is make sure to try and stack up Metacooler's attack increases as early as possible, when you're taking much less than damage from the enemy. So it is a 10% increase for every attack received up to 70%. So I would say within the first couple of battles, I would definitely try and get that attack up there to the max of 70%. Now you definitely don't want to force it to happen because you do face situations where you are fighting a couple of tech type enemies and you don't want to be caught off guard and supered on with type disadvantage because a lot of damage will be taken, by Metacooler. Regardless of how good he is, this event is essentially in a league of its own. So you do have to be a little bit more cautious, with that and how to go about it. So, but it's definitely worth it to include him because this event he does pretty well. He's got type advantage, defense is pretty good. He did take pretty decent amount of damage, but that's better than some of the other units could have potentially taken. I mean, it could have easily been like 150 to 200,000 in damage. So a lot of it just does come down to how you place the units in the each of the rotations. So again, I have 2 physical type units. Even if I use an item, they're going to take a lot of damage. So instead of wasting 1 or 2 items, it's probably better to use that Ghost Usher and avoid any attacks and then just prolong the survivability a little bit. So as you can see, with type disadvantage, unless a critical activates, you're only going to be doing about 291,000 in damage. So I think, so my version of Broly is 79%, the friend lead is 100%, so even with both of those setups are level 11 additional attack and level 15 critical, so definitely a heavier focus on crits, but if it doesn't activate, you're going to do little in damage, so that's the thing, you got to be careful with that. So again, a lot of attacks coming up, even though I could technically put Golden Frieza up there, I want to make sure the attack increase is maximized for the Metacooler unit. Plus, he can defend pretty well at this point, especially with the use of items. So it's perfectly fine to place him there instead of the Golden Frieza unit. So we still have quite a bit of HP bars. Like once you get to this point, that's when things drag out. Honestly, it just seems like up until the Super Saiyan Blue Goku battle, things are running relatively smooth. You can apply a lot of damage, defend pretty well. Things, relatively go pretty fast. But with this one, it's probably because with this team, there's at least 3 physical type units. So unless a critical activates, you're not seeing a whole lot of damage. Maybe that has something to do with that. But it just seems like it's a lot longer with the last 2 battles for sure. But we are getting there. I mean, eliminated at least a little bit over 50%, so a couple of attacks and we'll be okay. Of course, you want to place the 2 better units in the first 2 slots. Janemba, of course, being in the area with the most attacks coming. Broly should be able to defend pretty decent. I would say anywhere from like 50 to 80,000 in damage probably. So by the way, the LR Metacooler that I have at 100% potential, I gave him a pretty even distribution. Level 9 additional attack, level 12 criticals, and only level 5 for evasion. I pretty much decided not to really use any levels toward evasion except for the free slot. So a little bit higher on the critical side, but I kind of wanted the unit to be able to get some additionals as well. So level 9, 12 is the setup, and it works out pretty well. You could honestly go 15 with the crit and just be fine with that too. Alright, so recover an item and avoiding some damage with the 30% reduction, and then of course with all the attacks coming at the very end, we'll just go ahead and place Metacooler. One, because a lot of attacks are coming there, but also you're going to be facing the intelligence version coming up next with the Ultra Instinct Goku, so of course the final form cooler unit's better defensively because of type advantage, and attack output will actually be better. So you definitely do want to plan ahead because otherwise you might have to potentially waste some items when you don't necessarily have to. Now, I certainly do that myself. I tend to be a little bit more on the cautious side, so even though I don't necessarily need to use items, I kind of do so just to be on the safe side. I don't really want to waste any time. All the time it took to get to this point, I'm really not trying to be out like a simple super attack annihilates the team or whatever. You know what I mean? So definitely better be safe than sorry. So this is where Broly is going to shine, especially because it's already transformed, and you can get close to upwards of 3 super attacks. So unless Goku dodges, you can apply a lot of damage. Might as well use the defense item where you reduce damage taken by 40%. It's just better off to do it that way. You get 2 solid turns out of not having to worry about it too much. I think even though Golden Frieza can tank, and even though with a type disadvantage, I think the unit should be okay, especially with items used. Even without it, he probably would have been fine, but you really don't know. So this is relatively still a new event, so the more times you test it out, without items, see how much damage you actually take. The items consumption strategy can be a little bit altered, but for the time being, I really don't want to risk it, so it's not even worth it. Alright, so got about 3 HP bars out of the way. Looks like 7 left over, so slowly getting there. And fairly decent amount of items left over. I'm not really too concerned at this point, especially with the amount of units that can defend in this rotation. So unfortunately, I am going to not allow Janemba to super attack, and I'm pretty much avoiding the Dokkan mode attack. I'm saving that for the friend lead 100% potential Broly unit, just to be able to maximize as much as damage as possible, because of course the enemy can't dodge the Dokkan mode attack, so hopefully a lot of damage is applied with the Broly unit. So a couple of super attacks fortunately did go off with this rotation, so that was good, and we'll see how the damage taken here is. Yeah, 187,000, that is quite a lot. So this is great right here. Everybody has type advantage, pretty good levels of HP, so you don't really have to worry about anything at this point. You do recover HP as well from the Dokkan mode attack, so things are looking pretty good. I think we can probably cut down about 2 HP bars here, so that should help a lot in terms of smoothing, making things go a little bit more smoothly and getting toward the closing statements, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So things are definitely looking pretty good here. Alright, so no crit, but 2.5 million in damage. That's better than nothing. And fortunately, Goku isn't dodging too many attacks from these guys, so that's great. So critical did activate that time, so additional 1.6 million, and of course very little damage and very little damage taken. Alright, so yeah, we're getting very close. About 2.5 HP bars left. Hopefully Broly's able to shut off some more HP here. Yeah, okay, that's good. Maybe one more super attack. Nope. So, we're just going to go ahead and use the Ghost Usher. I mean, we've got plenty of items to use. I'm not really worried about it. I'm not really concerned with how I clear it without. What's the best way to put it? How I can clear it without using all the items, I guess. Like, I don't care. Like, as long as I clear it, I don't care how many items you use. Like, I'll use all of them if I have to. That's the point of bringing items anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's either you use all of them or you use none of them and do a no items run. It's like one of the two. So if you're in between, you might as well use all the items. Alright, so yeah, pretty much a done deal. Don't really need to use this, but I'm going to use it anyway. Why not, I mean, we've got the items. So Broly, of course, I'm going to let Broly finish off Goku here and see how things go. And then, with the item used with the 50% increase to defense, let's see how much in damage is taken. Like 111,000, that is still a lot. So without it, you're probably looking at around like 220,000 in damage. No, very little HP left on that one. Surviving and avoiding the inevitable there. Alright, so that's pretty much the movie bosses with the new Legendary Goku Battle Event. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.